Okay, so hopefully you've had a good morning this morning. I dropped my kids off at school and then I came home to find a maggot explosion in my kitchen. So I've been finding and cleaning up maggots all morning, which was quite gross. I have no idea where they've come from. I think I have them all. Then I go back to the kitchen and then I find more crawling around the ground. It's, ugh. So yes, I'm hoping your morning has been better than cleaning up maggots. Um, yeah, honestly, I have no idea where they have come from. Yeah, the rubbish gets taken out every day, so they found a way in somewhere, and I finally found a Venus flytrap. I've been looking for one of those for so long, and I thought maybe the Venus flytrap will eat the maggots. No, they don't. So don't feed maggots to Venus flytraps because they probably won't eat them. So there's a tip for you for today. I am going to share my screen. Oh, hang on. Sorry. You think I have this down pat by now, wouldn't you? Okay. Now I've lost you all. All right. Okay, so I'm going to get started just so we can try to stay on time. I'm assuming you can see me and my presentation. Nina is all over it. Thank you very much, Nina. I always get nervous that I'm not sharing things or you can't hear me or something. So welcome to today's webinar, which is all about prioritizing your mental well-being and saving you thousands of dollars in legal bills at the same time. I've been running these since November last year. We'll be running them monthly. I think we actually only have one, maybe two more to go. And then Nina's off to leave me to have a baby. So there's going to be a few months gap because I can't do the techie without Nina. So there's this one's either the last one or there might be another one. And then we're gonna have a couple of months off. So Nina can have her baby and yeah, she can enjoy that time being a mum. So I am having, why is this not working? Sorry, I'm just going to move that over there. So first off, I just want to acknowledge that for some of you showing up today would have been a massive first step. So give yourself like a pat on the back. You've taken that step and you're here in a safe, supportive, and completely judgment-free space. And you're surrounded by other people who are going through similar things to you. And every situation is different, but there are common threads that bind us all. We have had nearly 300 people register for today's webinar. We've had over 1,200 in total since we started running these in November, which just goes to show that this is very much needed and a very big gap in our family law system. Well, probably not only within Australia, but elsewhere in the world as well. But I am honestly very grateful for your trust in me and for allowing me to have your precious time here this morning. If you need to duck off, it's okay. We're recording it. And once the webinar finishes, we'll send through the replay. So don't stress. I've already had people telling me that they got to jump off or they're going to be late. Completely fine. It's recorded. So we're good. And I know that some of you may be going through what is one of the biggest toughest experiences of your life. And I promise that I am here for the ride. I am not going anywhere. But what I have noticed in the past few webinars, when we're just looking at the stats, I suppose, is that there is a trend as to when most people register for this webinar. And I just want you to type in the chat, when do you think we receive the most registrations? So is it in the morning? So kind of like 6 in the morning to like 12-ish? Is it around lunchtime? So more that 12 to 2 mark? in the afternoon, so around 2 to 5, nighttime, so around the 6 to 11, or early morning, kind of that midnight to 6 a.m. Just curious to see. Chat is going off. Oh, I can't keep up. Oh, there's a good mix there. Oh, yeah. It's actually around 2 o'clock in the morning. Between 2 to 3 in the morning is when we get the most registrations. And it didn't occur to me until I think I ran it last month. And obviously all the notifications come through, but it wasn't until I was kind of like examining the stats, and I'm like, the majority of our registrations come through around that 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So to me, that just tells me that many of you are either not sleeping or you're waking up at night in panic and sweating in relation to your separation, and that is not healthy at all. And I really want to change that, so you're not waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and having those panic attacks, or waking up in sweats, wondering what your family law matter is going to be, or how to approach it, or any of that. So and I've done my absolute best to make this clear and manageable without trying to overwhelm you too much. There is so much that I really, really want to share. And each presentation I do, I try and trim it down as much as I possibly can. So with that said, we'll get started. So just obviously typical disclaimer. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not here in like a legal capacity today. Think of me like divorce coach, separation coach, or something if you like. Any information here is for general purposes. Each situation is different. I can't give legal advice in a matter that I don't know the full story to. So please just remember that. This is also a safe and a confidential space. So we have set this up so you kind of can't see each other, and there's obviously a reason for that as well. But just make sure if you see a name that pops up or something, you can change your name if you need to, if you're a bit worried about that. But let's just respect each other and everybody's privacy, please, because we're all here for the same reason, and what happens in the webinar stays in the webinar. So I wanted to throw some stats in here, and they're probably going to seem a little bit alarming. So, and the stats actually, this is as up to date as I could get. So in 2021 in Australia, there were 56,244 divorces. That does not include de facto separations. So that is probably double. 30% of marriages in Australia end in divorce. If you have a child that has special needs, the divorce rate jumps to about 80%, if not more. The average marriage, which I was surprised at, in Australia lasts around 8 years, which is just, you don't get married to, be married for 8 years, so that was a little bit shocked at that one. This one was a bit interesting too. So this is Australia. Bartenders and gaming managers have the highest divorce rates by profession. I would not have thought that at all. Whether it's because they're working in clubs and meeting people, I am not sure, but bartenders and gaming managers, which I thought was interesting. And to compare it to the US, in 2022, there was about 670,000 divorces. But again, that's not counting de facto relationships. Obviously, in a de facto relationship, you don't have to file like for a divorce because you're de facto. So you'll be going through possibly the family law court, or you're signing documents and stuff. But the divorce is like you're married and then you're divorcing, so you can go on and marry somebody else in the future. So I just thought I'd throw those stats in just for a bit of a comparison. So ultimately for me, I'd rather save a relationship before it gets this far, because there are often reasons that are very similar as to why a relationship will end. I'm going to put a caveat in here, is that DV is the exception. So if you're in a domestic violence situation, this is the exception. So if I say I want to try and save a relationship, if you're in a DV situation, I'm probably not going to want to save that relationship. I'm going to make sure that you and your family are safe. So anytime you hear me say that, just know that DV is that caveat. And if you know me, I try to do all the things, but for the moment, I'm obviously sticking to the side where separation is looking likely and try and provide as much information as I can in relation to that process. So, feeling overwhelmed by the emotional and legal challenges, it's normal and you're not alone. So, when I was going through law school, I did it through I had two universities. I started at Southern Cross in Lismore and then I swapped to Armidale, UNE, for the legal degree component. And we weren't taught this stuff at uni. So we weren't taught about the emotions that come into play when we're dealing with clients. So some areas of law, it's a simple transaction. Emotions are, what we would deem normal, completely fine. But when we're dealing with more sensitive areas of law, so like family law, for example, it is so emotionally charged that most lawyers don't know how to deal with that, or they consider that it's not their job. We don't have a module on self-care or looking after clients or knowing what to say, what not to say, like that just doesn't exist. And even when we have our CLE, so our compulsory legal education units that we have to do, none of them incorporate that either. So something else that's on my to-do list to change. but um, but because that's how I was taught, that's just how I thought it was. And it wasn't until I was admitted as a lawyer and I started working with clients and I knew I just couldn't vomit out all the legal side, all the legal stuff that you had to know about. And I couldn't tell you, hey, here's a tissue, harden up. That's not the type of person that I am anyway. And over the years, I've also had clients who have suicide. And that has really, really affected me. And we still have clients who are suicidal and they're open about it, which is fantastic. But having the added stress of knowing that somebody is not well and wondering whether, they're okay in the moment, it's not unlike us to go, hey, you need to send us an email, all we can, so we know that you are safe. So when suicide hits, it hits very, very different. And there are definitely a few clients that have lost to suicide, and I don't think I still gotten over that. So it just hits you different. And when you're going through a separation, it's not just the legal side. You're dealing with your entire life possibly being turned upside down. And that's irrelevant whether you're the one that's ended the relationship or one has ended on you. And with that, there's a whole pile of emotions. So 1 minute you might be relieved, and then you could be devastated, and then you might be ashamed, and then you might be angry, then you might be guilty. And all of those feelings are valid. And you might have all of those feelings in one day. Like that's going to happen too. But separation does not define you. I don't know how many times I've sat in front of a client and they think that that failed, that they're ashamed because the relationship has ended. And that's not at all the case. And I don't want you to think that. And if somebody tells you that, they're probably not the person to be hanging out with. But that's another reason why I started my own legal practice. We're hitting 9 years next month. So March 2016, I started. It was called Law to Door back then. It's now called Aqua Legal. And then I started a Queensland legal practice because I apparently had nothing to do. But I just knew that my legal practice had to be different than where I had previously worked. And it's not a discredit to anywhere that I have worked. That has obviously shaped me to be the person who I am and how I want to practice law. But we move at your emotional pace, not that of the legal pace. Because I've seen what happens when lawyers try to rush clients through to settlements and signing documents, and it's not nice. If they're not ready, that can lead to decisions that you will regret, you'll be cranky, and decisions that you can't undo. And with that, I'm leaning towards the suicide part of that. And that's something I definitely do not want. And really, you're probably not just looking for a lawyer right now. You're looking for someone who understands that it isn't just another legal matter, that this is your life. And it's possibly that you didn't even know that this was a thing until you saw this webinar, which is also a little bit scary. But that's why I'm here today. So here's me. I am a mum, I'm a collaborative lawyer, I am an RTT and clinical hypnotherapist and a mindfulness instructor. And there's probably a whole pile of other things I haven't added to that, but that's probably enough. I have two beautiful daughters, and I have two very cheeky French bulldogs named Kenny and Vegas. I am a Lakers fan, I'm a Broncos fan, and I am one of those people who barrack for Queensland in the state of origin, even though I was born in New South Wales. So I know that's very controversial, but I'm not changing. I've done that since I was little. So I run two legal practices. So as I mentioned before, I've Aqua Legal and Conveyancing. We're coming up to 9 years next month, which is just unbelievable. Also conveyancing, which is conveyancing for Queensland. So we're hitting 5 years, I think, for that for this year. And then last year I started a mortgage broking business, Confetti Finance, and it obviously all is for a purpose. It all meshes in well for what I'm trying to help clients through. And then obviously today you found me through my personal brand, which is Stacy M, because Munzenberger is like a really, really long and hard to pronounce. So I've just condensed it to Stacy M. And as I said before, I love to do all the things. But at the heart of it, I'm honestly deeply passionate about helping people through whatever stage of life they're in and weaving the legal side into the emotional side because you can't ignore that. And that's exactly why I'm here today. And I have been in your shoes. So if separating wasn't easy for me, even with my background, I cannot begin to imagine how overwhelming it must be for many of you. With me being on the other side of it, it really gave me a whole new perspective on what a separation is really like. Because I thought I had understood it from a client's point of view. I did, but I didn't. And here are some photos of me starting over again after 20 years of living pretty comfortably. And I know it's first world problems. I'm very privileged to have had, a nice home and everything. I know people have a lot worse than this, but I wanted to just show you the photos to say, hey, I've been there as well. So I've had to tell my girls that their dad and I were separating, and then having that conversation with your partner. I reckon that's probably one of the hardest conversations that I've had in my life. The stress of finding a rental. I hadn't rented in over like 20 years since I was at uni. Stress of trying to figure out finances, me thinking IKEA was going to be the way to go because it's cheap, only to find myself collapsed on the floor in tears because all of those stupid flat packs were just way too much. I couldn't do it. My girls and I sat on the floor for months because we didn't have a lounge. We slept on mattresses on the floor because our beds took forever to arrive. And of course, they were IKEA as well. The photo of me here with the pizza, that was my first night alone in my new place. It was a Friday night. I was sitting there wondering what the fuck I'd done, to be completely honest. The garbage bags here and the soap beads, which I never knew existed until that night. That was from a friend of my daughter's. A friend of my daughter's. My daughter's friend's parents. God, that was really hard to say then. I didn't have any washing liquid. I didn't have garbage bags. It was just shit. I just didn't even think about. And these were people that I'd met once. So thankfully they lived around the corner. They knew that we were moving there. And they texted me to say, is everything okay? Do you need help with anything? And I was in tears saying they dropped the washing machine off. They were meant to connect it. They didn't. I don't know what to do. And so they came over. They helped me connect my washing machine. And they needed to put something in a garbage bag. And I said, oh, I haven't even thought about that yet. Sorry, I don't have any. Just give it to me. I'll take it outside and put it in the Sula bin. But I didn't know that after they left, they came back and they gave me some bags and some beautiful soap beads, which I actually use now. But I'd felt completely useless. I'd failed myself. I'd failed my girls. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just suck it back up because that would make everybody happy. But since then, there have been happy moments, sad moments, and moments that I am pretty damn proud of. So this is going to sound really simple to a lot of people, but I learned how to use a lawnmower. I'd never used a lawnmower before. Last week, I learnt how to use a whippersnipper. I'd never whippersnipped before either. I had to work out why my oven wasn't working. It was a brand new house and it just wasn't turned on in the switchboard. I've dealt with gas issues, and I don't mean internal gas issues. We have gas available here, and my gas wasn't lighting, so that had to be turned on as well. I thankfully found a flat pack guy who literally saved my ass and just went over and above. So if you're in the Hunter Valley region, I can highly suggest a flat pack person because he is just amazing. To be honest, I miss him a little bit and I feel like going to buy another flat pack, but I don't need anything else. But yeah, he honestly just saved so much stress for me. I dealt with asshole delivery drivers who were meant to connect things, or but they jumped my lounge in the rain out the front, like a massive three-seater lounge. I don't know what they thought I was going to do with it, but like that, just shit like that. Like it was really, really hard. And my girls and I went from living comfortably to sitting and sleeping on the floor for months. Like it was months. It was probably 4 or 5 months, I reckon, that we did that. And it just felt like a massive step backwards. And you know what? It fucking sucked. And sometimes it still does. But honestly, it is getting better every single day. And I knew that going back to what was familiar was not going to help us. And that's what some people do. There's like, no, I should just say, it's just to stay. But you know that it's leaving for a reason. And going back to what was familiar, it wasn't going to serve me. It wasn't going to, it just was the wrong decision. And I knew that. I'm not saying that was easy, but I knew what was familiar I had to have like a new familiar, I suppose. And I've had some pretty badass, heck yeah, Stacy moments that I wouldn't have had before, and I've had to step up and I've had to be more independent than what I ever could be. And that's when I pat myself on the back. Or we have a group chat in in my businesses. And when I used the whippersnipper last week, I had photo, look at me, I'm whippersnipping. Like things like that. Like I was just so excited I could finally use a whippersnipper. And funnily enough, I did actually buy a flat pack that my daughter wanted, like a Kmart shelf thing for, and I had to go buy an electric screwdriver from Bunnings. And oh my God, like how awesome are electric screwdrivers? Yeah, so I had fun last weekend. Bit of swearing involved, but the electric screwdriver last weekend was pretty fun to use. But these are my qualifications. So you can see that this side is pretty different to this side. And as I touched on before, the traditional side of law that hasn't changed forever just wasn't sitting well with my values. And my team and I could handle all of the legal side, no worries, but we knew clients needed more, especially when we're starting to lose clients to suicide. We're like, this isn't cool. This isn't right. So we need to do something more. And we know that separation isn't just about dividing assets, it's navigating one of life's probably most challenging and emotional journeys. And if you look at the two circles, so we have traditional law here and holistic, most lawyers are in this section. And you know what? If that serves them, congratulations. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong or anything. But most lawyers aren't trained to help you with the emotional complexity of your separation. And that's when all of this comes in. And I said I wasn't going to do any more study this year, and I have lied. I am doing extra things so I can better serve you guys. So I became a collaborative family law coach. I got certified as a mindfulness instructor. I'm a trained clinical hypnotherapist and transformational therapist, which probably seems all very random for a lawyer. But to me, they're not just certificates on a wall. They are tools that help me support you, and really myself included in that, as a whole person. And you're not just another matter number in our system or somebody else's system. So I've been admitted to the High Court, the Supreme Court, did my Bachelor of Law, my Bachelor of Legal and Justice Studies, but I really want to bridge these worlds together, and the team that I have at Aqua are exactly the same, and they've been pretty hard to find, to be completely honest. So we obviously know a lot about this side, but we're also trained in this side. And you're not just getting a lawyer with 15 plus years experience, you're getting someone who has deliberately chosen to educate themselves on the other side. So we can help you with your legal and your emotional needs during this challenging time. And we move at your pace. If it's heavy, if you need to pause, we pause. If you see that you are starting to become so unwell that we think you are possibly going to do something, we will stop. And if the other side are on our asses, we will say, hey, go up. Our priority at the moment is our client's mental well-being, not your shitty ass letter that you sent through that just is completely irrelevant. And that's when our clients tell us that they feel really, really supported, both on the mental health side and the legal side as well. So I say this in every webinar, but really the 3 topics could be an entire webinar of their own. Most of the webinars go for close to 2 hours, which I think is very, very heavy for this type of conversation. So I have tried each time to condense it down. I was condensing things just before I came on this Zoom call. And then Nina's like, you have to log on. I'm like, shit, yes, I do. I broke this slide. Can you fix it? And then I quickly logged on. So, but yeah, I just keep refining what I've got. I've got this. I have my social media. We have our weekly emails. I have my podcast. So just whatever it is, I try and get it out in some form. So it's practical and clear. And I promise you I will try not to be too lawyery. And I'll try not to use any overwhelming legal jargon. I'm just going to keep it as real as I can, provide you with some useful advice so you can move forward. So the first thing that's probably important is the mindset of a separation. So many people, as I've said, feel like they failed. And I know that because I was one of them. And honestly, that really breaks my heart. Most of us don't enter a relationship expecting it to end. As I said before, 8 years is like the average marriage in Australia. Like that's like just shocking. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. It's like we're doomed before the relationship even begins. And especially if you have children with special needs, that jumps massively. And I did do a podcast. I've done 2 podcasts on children with special needs with ADHD and autism, and with an ADHD and autism coach, and with a psych as well. So if that is something that is in your world at the moment, please go listen to those podcasts, because I don't discuss it on here because that's just going to be too much. But no matter what side of the separation on, whether you've ended the relationship or it's ended on you, there's highly likely going to be emotions, and that's fine. But please do not believe you are a failure because you are here. And I know it's early days for some, and it might be really hard to see the light, but this is just the start of a new chapter, and it's one that you get to write. Might take a couple of pages before you see the light, but I can promise you it will get better. So right now, I just want you to type something in the chat because this has worked well for our other webinars. I want you to type it in the chat, and I want you to, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, just say it out loud to yourself, close your eyes, do all 3, whatever you're comfortable with. But I really want you to define your own worth. So it could be, I am worthy of love. It could be, I'm worthy of a happy and healthy relationship. It might be, I'm worthy of respect. It might be, I'm worthy of being appreciated. I know that's probably a big one for me. I like to know that I'm appreciated. I don't need a ceremony every time I do something. But I was like, hey, cool, thanks. So being appreciated is a good one for me. And whatever one comes to your mind is probably the one that you value the most. And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But just remember that when you have really, really tough days, just hold on to why you're worthy and what's really important to you. And when that doubt creeps in, go back to that reason as to why you're worthy. Because you are all worthy exactly how you are. And I'll share something quickly before I jump into the chat. But on a previous webinar, I had somebody reach out and he just said, I just want to have a massive heart attack. Like, I just can't do these. If I have a heart attack, like, it'll change everything. And I got teary when I read that. I'm just like, that's really, really sad that somebody else who's going through the family law system that's not supported. And it just re-emphasized to me, it's like, right, this is why you're doing it, Stacey. There are people that need this. So please, please, please don't think yeah, that you're negative or anything. 100, yeah, Deborah. So she says she's 100% waking up. This week I've been waking up around 2 to 3 myself. There's obviously something in my subconscious that's waking me up. I can't tell you what it is. But yeah, I'm that kind of 2 to 3 person. Then there's actually a scientific reason for that. Can't quite remember. Someone did tell me the other week. I'll have to look into that. All right. Is anyone seeing me freezing? There's just a comment in there that I'm freezing. I look okay my end. If I am freezing, can you please let me know? I'm not quite sure what I can do about it, but I do have my fan turned on, but I don't think it'll be my fan. But yeah, if I'm freezing for other people, please let me know. Worthy of a happy and healthy relationship that's based on trust and respect. 100%. That's a great one. Worthy of meaning something. Oh, that's a really, really good one. I'm worthy of not being lied to and cheated on. Yep, I could do a whole other webinar on that. I'm so sorry if you were going through that. There's a ditto. Yeah, I do keep freezing. Yeah, okay. I don't know how to fix that. I do apologize. I'll try and keep my eye on the chat if you feel like you've missed something that I've said that you want me to go back on. Like if I was mid-sentence to something, please let me know. I pay like a lot for my internet, so I'm not sure why I am freezing. I'm just going to turn my fan off just in case it's something dumb like that. Hang on. Open up my door so I don't sweat. Right, I turned my fan off. I don't know whether it's that or not, but it's worth a shot. So apologies for that, guys. Okay, next slide. Sorry, I was trying to work out where I was at then. Where am I? I did that one, didn't I? Right, so this one. Please be really careful as to where you get your advice. So a little heads up, if you are posting in those mums and bubs groups, or there could be an equivalent for duds and bubs. Sorry, I'm not a male, I'm not in those groups, but we do have a lot of males that register for a webinar as well. So I didn't want you to feel excluded, but effectively it's just be really careful where you get your advice from, because I'll often see people responding to a family law post, and I'm going to use the mums and bubs group as my example. And I see the response and like I cringe. I'm just like, oh, that's so wrong. And then you try and go and give the right information, then you're attacked for like giving the wrong information, for the right information, sorry. Just like it's really hard. And because most of the posts are anonymous, it's not like you can send them a message to go, hey, that advice was like really, really wrong. This is, this is the right advice. So, but just remember, every separation is different. And it depends on the team that you have around you, the personalities of the people that you are dealing with as well, whether that's yours, your ex, your kids, your lawyer, that comes into play as well. But everybody seems to have an opinion, whether that's from people you know or people you don't know. And it's when that wrong information gets out there, that is where it gets just really, really dangerous. My best piece of advice, my tip would be just take what you need, discard what you don't need, and please take it with a grain of salt unless you know the person that is giving you that advice is a lawyer, is a mediator, is a judge, if you're so lucky to have a judge or a magistrate in your life. You need to make sure that the source of that information is quality. And to compare it to something, I compare it to when I had my first child. So Lily was born in 2011. And I remember just being at the hospital, and it's like, Stacy, you have to do this, and Stacy, you have to do that. And everything that was coming at me was like contradicting like what the other person has said. And my gut's saying, this doesn't feel right, but it was a first time mum. So I'm like, what am I meant to know about having a baby? And when I'm trying to leave the hospital, the midwives are like literally like yelling at me, and even they had all different information as well. And it was like really, really horrible. And I was just burst like I got in the car and I just burst into tears. Like I was, you know, first time mum, and you're making me feel like really shit. But when we got home, I called my auntie, who was a midwife, not at the hospital where I was at. Otherwise, it was probably going to be a different story. And the best piece of advice she ever gave me, and I still use it to this day, is do what your gut tells you. Take what you need, change it, discard it, whatever you need to do. And that was like a massive weight off my shoulders. I remember when my daughter had to like be bottle fed for a little bit, and I thought we were going to blow her stomach up because she went through like 2 bottles or something. Like, it's just things like that. That just, you needed that reassurance because you hadn't gone through it before. So I didn't know what I was doing. But after I started to listen to my gut, I really did stop caring about what anybody else thought. And I just worked on what worked for me and my family. So I really suggest and recommend that you guys do the same as well. The emotional support is also really, really important because separation can be lonely. And even people who you thought were once friends, don't be surprised if they take sides. If it's like you're back in high school and all these rumors start as well, it's so gross. Or someone gives you advice that doesn't actually help. So, where can you go? So, if you need, there are counselors out there, there are therapists, there might be support groups. So, those people are going to understand, or hopefully understand, what you were going through. You have podcast options that from somebody that resonates with you to remind you that you are not alone, and they might have some tips for you. Journaling is one. It's something that I'm not really into, but I know there are a lot of people that do. Or simple self-care, so like a walk, a bath, just a moment to take some time for yourself and just breathe in and relax. And of course, we've got the Empowered Separation Program, which I'll talk about a little bit later, which obviously covers all of that side together with the legal. One tip I want to give though is please be careful who you talk to and what you say to that person. So avoid bad mouthing your ex. It will be used against you. I can guarantee it. Don't discuss the legal process in front of your kids. You might think they don't understand, but they do, and it will guarantee you it will create problems when you're trying to settle. Be mindful of texts and emails, or social media posts. If it's written down, it's going to be screenshot, and it will likely be used as evidence against you. But please know that you are not alone. You just need to find your people. And I know it can be really, really isolating. I know I felt that. And again, this is why I created the program, because you don't just need someone, having that person to talk to can make all the difference. And especially if you feel like you don't have anybody, I don't want you to be making decisions that you can't undo permanently. But I did share something on my Instagram account. It was probably a couple of months ago now, and it just really stuck out and I liked it, so I stole it. But it was a Simon Sinek post. It was essentially about a person or somebody that he knew that had been struggling for months. So they were friends. They could have been even struggling for years. And as usual, life gets in the way. You don't mean to not touch base with somebody. It just happens. And then one day he's like, oh, yeah, better pop such and such a text, haven't heard from them for a little while, checking in. He wasn't expecting the response to be, well, you know what, like we're not friends, like you're an asshole for not contacting me type thing. So long story short of that, they came up with something like a code between them both. And it was if either of them had sent a text saying, do you have 8 minutes? That was a signal. So that meant I need help. I'm not okay. Like, I need you now. I need to talk. So I quite liked that because I know that asking for help can be really, really difficult. But if there's somebody that you trust out there, maybe that do you have 8 minutes might be a really good way for you to check in on somebody. And again, if you don't feel there's anybody out there that you can trust, you got counselors, therapists, you have online support services. A lot of them are 24 hours now as well. So I think like Beyond Blue and Lifeline. But my final thought is just please don't think you need to do this alone. Please trust your gut. Your gut is like your second brain. So if it's squirmish for a reason. And just take what serves you and just let go of the rest. But you are not a failure. I promise you that you're worthy of happiness and everything else that you just said in the chat. And I promise you that you will get through this. And consider what type of emotional support you want or you need. Is there somebody out there that you have in mind? So, there's somebody that comes to your mind right now, write it down so you don't forget. There might be that one person out there that could help you through the transition that you are going through. So it might be, you might want someone that's blunt as hell and just there's no sugarcoating and just tells it like it is. Just straight up honesty. You might want someone that's a little bit softer, so they'll listen to you, but they'll gently nudge you towards what you need to do. You might want someone to come to your first legal appointment or help you collate your documents, whatever it might be. So hopefully that there's somebody that comes to mind for you. And just work out what type of support you want, whether you kind of want that hard ass or whether you want more of the softer ass, but will still put you in the direction that you need to head. But there's no right or wrong. Everybody needs different kinds of support. Sometimes I'm like, give it to me straight. Sometimes I'm like, ease up. I'm a bit sensitive. Just, yeah, be there and gently nudge me. So, depends on what suits you. But just pick someone that lifts you up and doesn't drag you down. So hopefully there is somebody in mind for you for that one. 8 minutes. That might be something that you can incorporate. I think that's a really, really good idea. Very clear that, you just need someone to have a chat to. So I just want to break down the separation process. This is obviously overly simple. There's a lot more that happens in the background, but I was trying to make it as simple as I possibly can. So the first thing that we ask when somebody comes to us in a family law matter is this relationship really over? Can it be saved? Are you both open to working on this relationship? So sometimes yes, sometimes no. Again, caveat is DV if that is involved. I honestly would much rather have a relationship saved because there's usually a common purpose as to how you get here. And it might not just be one thing. It might be like piles of little things that just added up and caused an eruption. But if you're both willing to put the effort in, maybe counselling could be the way to go before you explore separation options. I know that we've definitely had people either get back together or we've had two people go through the whole separation process. We transfer property and we split everything and everything's filed with the court and all of that. And then after we've done all that, they come to us and say, we got back together 3 months ago. We were too scared to tell you. It was like, oh my God, like congratulations, but you have just spent so much more money on things that just didn't need to happen. So that happens as well. Finding a supportive community. So like something I have here in Empowered Separation, honestly, being surrounded by people who understand what you're going through can make all the difference. And if you need something more face-to-face, more physical, I'm sure that there are going to be local support groups in your area as well. And to be honest, I pretty well did my separation alone. I told my work colleagues because my logistics of things was going to change because I moved out of the town that I was living in. But having that community there when I was struggling, I mean, my teammates are great as well, but it probably would have been a lot more comforting. So do as I say, don't do as I did, because I definitely did it the hard way, which is not uncommon for me to do. getting that right legal support. So when you're ready, you might be right to start that legal process, so long as it's with the right lawyer. So if you're part of my program, Empowered Separation, you're going to be super prepared, both mentally and legally. So it's going to save you a crap ton of time and money and stress as well, because you're going to be like really, really prepared and educated. And by being informed, it just means that you're going to be further ahead of most people. You're going to go in with clarity. You're going to know what questions to ask, and you're just honestly going to feel in more control. Sorting finances out. So an accountant can be really helpful, or a financial advisor. We will get them involved if we're dealing with things like capital gains tax or tax issues, if there's property overseas, all of that type of thing. So not uncommon for us to do that. If there's a mortgage involved, you might be trying to work out whether you can buy your ex out or know what you need to purchase a property, which is why I started Confetti Finance. So if it's a financing, reach out. I can get my senior broker, Jess, to run numbers with you so you got clarity on your options. A good mediator. They won't happen in all matters, but they're there. A good mediator can be incredibly valuable, and I'm putting the word good. It probably should be great mediator more than good. A lot of people hesitate because of the cost of a mediator. When you compare that to the costs of not going to a mediator, the cost of the mediator is going to be cheaper than the matter keep running how it is. So it's often worth to go to mediation. And we have like a really good track record of mediation. Mediation keeps you out of court. If you go to court and you haven't had mediation, except for DV, they're going to throw mediation back in your face anyway. So you haven't gone to mediation, get out of my court and go to mediation. So it's going to have to be involved in there somewhere, if you're not agreeing on things. But just less stress, quicker resolution. And we work with some amazing mediators. So there are definitely some out there. So final tips, I guess, for this one is please work with people who respect your process. Whoever you choose in all of this, just make sure that you are comfortable with them. They respect how you want to resolve your separation, because it is a thing. You dictate what type of settlement that you want to have. And I'm not saying it's rainbows and unicorns, but there are lawyers out there that just want to take things to court, charge a shit ton, cause issues when there's no issues, and there's people who want to use their kids as pawns against the ex and all of that. Like, that exists, that is out there. I'm not going to be able to change that as much as I, would like to. But we are not those people. But there are people out there that will want to do that. So, and if that is your ex, then that is just something that we're going to have to deal with together. And just remember, not all lawyers are equal. You can be a Elle Woods. I can't tell you how many times I watched Legally Blonde when I was studying. Or you can be a Lionel Hutz. Because not all lawyers are different. Not all lawyers operate the same way. So you have some that go down that traditional law route. Nothing wrong with that. That's how they choose to practice. Good on them. There are lawyers that drag settlement processes out and milk settlement proceeds. They unfortunately exist as well. There's some that stir the pot, and they know it, and they're proud of being difficult and causing drama when there is no drama, but they'll create it. So then all of a sudden there is drama. That just adds to more costs, which is just silly. There are some lawyers that won't even pick up the phone to have a simple conversation, but they'll send a 5-page letter of just unnecessary rubbish to provoke a reaction. And then the reaction is there, then that reaction will be used against you. Like, it's just, ugh. So yeah, just have a think about what type of family lawyer that you want to have. And again, it's not going to be rainbows or unicorns, but I want to make it as rainbowy and unicorny as I possibly can. So I would suggest that you probably want a lawyer who is going to listen to you. You probably are going to want a lawyer who's going to present different settlement options for you instead of saying that there's only one way, because there's not. You want a lawyer who's going to pick up the phone and have a chat with the other side instead of sending like ridiculous letters to each other or emails. You want someone who's going to prioritize early intervention strategies to minimize the conflict and again, keep those costs down as far as possible. But yeah, if you're that vindictive person that wants to use kids as pawns, this webinar is not at all for you. Hopefully there is nobody here. I don't think I would attract that type of person. If that is you, that is you. You do you, boo. That is not how I do it, but there are definitely lawyers out there that will be suited to you. It's just not how we operate. But you want to make sure that you're heard, that you're supported, that you're guided towards a resolution that helps you and your family move forward, not something that you feel forced into. Really trust your gut. Honestly, I can't probably enforce that enough. If something feels off, it's probably off for a reason. So just have that in mind. And again, just that gut feeling. The gut feeling is the second brain. I teach my team to go with their gut. If we get a client that wants to engage us for something or they want a clarity call or something, and if our gut's saying, oh, I don't think this is the right person for us, it's pretty spot on. So it's saying, we're not the right lawyers for you. And obviously, we word this different to the client, but we know, right, we're not going to be the right lawyers for them. And we'll always try and provide suggestions to people. We don't just say no. But if your gut's saying no, work out why it's saying no. It could be a red flag. It could be anything. So please just trust your instincts and just remember that the gut is often referred to as the second brain. So trying to reduce the overwhelm. I'm just going to check the chat to make sure I'm not definitely. So Sandra just asked, do we have financial advisors? There are definitely a lot out there. We've struggled to find some that we really like. We're starting to now. Some of them are predominantly women. Some of them are predominantly male. Some of them are both male and female, as in working with like their ideal client base. But there's definitely, we're getting some really good ones on our books now. So yeah, we definitely have people out there, Sandra. But each lawyer works differently. So in my practice, we probably do it, well, I call it standard. It's probably not really standard when you compare it to a standard practice, but we listen to you. So we make sure that you feel heard. We answer your questions so you feel informed and you're not overwhelmed. We'll give you a brief overview of the process if you need it, so you know what to expect. And we'll break it down into small, manageable steps that are just not overwhelming. And the way we approach it varies from person to person because we meet you where you're at. Some people are here, some people are here. That's completely fine. Wherever you're at, that's where we're going to meet you at. There are some people that come to us with a rough settlement because they've been able to work it out with their ex. Amazing. There are some that have absolutely no clue. That is also okay too. There's no right or wrong here. If you're feeling overwhelmed, please speak up. If at any point you feel like it's too much, please tell your lawyer to slow down. Your mental health is your priority. If you are struggling to kind of break things down and you ask your lawyer and they say no, try and manage it and break it down into steps yourself. So for example, you're probably going to get a letter or a lawyer is going to say this really quickly, and I speak really quickly. I'm sorry, I've always spoken really quickly, but I'm going to do this part on purpose. So it's like you need to bring in 100 points of ID, you need to bring in 3 years of bank statements, you need to bring 3 months of pay slips in, you need 3 months of super statements, you need all your mortgage balances for the past 3 years, you need all your car loan details for the past 3 years, and the valuations that are like no longer than 6 months, and there's going to be like a whole pile of other things. And you're going to be sitting there going, I have no idea what you're talking about. Just break it down. So, right, I need to get my ID sorted. That's very standard. It's probably one of the first things that you'll be asked to do. Usually it's a driver's license and a passport. If you don't have them, then you have to start going down the line for other things. Right, here they are. Get them photocopied, get them verified. There's my VOI done. Step 2. So now I've got to gather some docs. So I'm going to go check with payroll to give them, so they can give me my 3 months worth of pay slips because that's what my lawyers asked me to get. And then I'm going to get some financial details. So I'm going to go to my bank or I'm going to call my bank, or if you're savvy, you might log into internet banking and I'm going to get my updated mortgage balance. I'm going to call my super fund or my super funds to get my last 3 years worth of statements, whatever it is, whatever small steps you need and that are manageable. And if your lawyer's not going to do it, you're going to have to do it for yourself. Just find something that works for you. I love a good checklist. I use a paper diary still. I have an electronic diary as well. I probably have too many diaries, but I have a paper diary because I physically love ticking things off, like actually getting the pen to paper and crossing something out or ticking something off. It's not quite the same as like ticking a done button on your computer. Like I love it. So if that's it, do that. If electronic task is something for you, do that too. There's no right way. It's just however you want to manage it. If you are getting overwhelmed, just stop, take a break. Even if you're in a mid-meeting with them and it's getting heavy, like you can feel yourself starting to break down, go, hey, I just need to go for a quick walk outside, reset, and I'll be back. Don't be afraid to say that. Honestly, if your lawyer's not going to let you do that, then you probably need to consider whether the right person for you. But yeah, if it gets too heavy or overwhelmed, or I'm just having a bit of a day, probably like with the maggots this morning, that might have been a good time to do it. I have scented hand cream on my desk. I swipe these from the motels that I stay at. So you don't have to go too expensive, but just make sure that it's scented. And I will put a little bit on my hand. I will close my eyes. I will smell the scent. So make sure you have cream where you like the scent for. And I'll just give myself like a nice hand massage. That's enough to get me to go, okay, cool, I'm good. Right, let's restart. There are breathing techniques as well. Like there's heaps of things. Again, there's no right or wrong. But that's just a quick, easy one that I do with the cream on my desk. There's only going to be a few circumstances whether you have to quickly gather information and docs. And then I'm even going to say then that if you are in immediate danger, so again, we're talking DV, your priority is getting you and your family safe. It's not going to grab my bank statements or something like that. If you can get birth certificates and passports, awesome. If you can't, just they can be taken care of elsewhere. Yeah, so don't think that anything needs to be rushed. Your priority is making sure that you're safe. So I just want you to stop. I want you to take a deep breath, and I really just want you to take it one step at a time. And if that lawyer is yelling at you, just tell them to back the bus up, because if they push you into doing something, you are probably going to agree to something that you don't want to do. Then you're going to be resenting probably your ex and your lawyer, and it's just going to make you feel icky. So only do things and sign things that you are happy to do, not because you're forced to do something. So I'm going to throw in something a little bit, just a little bit low key. So let's just lighten up a little bit. I'm sure we have all seen this post or something similar. Looks cool, might feel good at the time. Please don't be that person. Don't fire off that angry text. Don't go on social media. Don't send that heated email in the heat of the moment. I get it. That probably would have felt good to, good doing it. Highly likely that has gone against them. So that might mean that you get less time with your kids. That might mean you're spending more legal fees because you're, justifying you doing that. Please try and be the bigger and better person. Please try not to react with emotion. I know that's really, really difficult, but if you can be that bigger and better person, that's probably going to be hurting your ex more than if you were to arc up like this. Like it could impact your property settlement. It can be used in legal proceedings, affect court orders, time with your kids. Like it's honestly just not worth it. So if you feel like you got a little bit of anger, if you don't want to take up boxing or something like that, type that text, but don't put anybody in the two. Write that letter, but don't put anybody in the two. Draft that email and don't put anybody in the two. You put somebody in the two and you hit send, then it's not going to work well. So if you do that, just don't put to anybody. If that's the event that you need, if something still needs to be sent, maybe take some time to think about it, a minute, a day, send it the next day, whatever. But please just try and note that you're about to probably send something you shouldn't. Yep, cool. I've drafted it. I'm going to walk away. I know I've definitely done that with, we've got a letter from the other side, and that's made me arc up. Not as bad anymore, thankfully. I will often, well, usually you'll hear some sort of noise come out of my office, and I've usually received at the same time as my PA, so she knows what I'm going about. She'll be like, don't respond, I will respond. Which she's done that before. Or I'll be like typing my email out, and then I'll walk away. I know what I've typed I can't send. Like I wouldn't be a lawyer anymore. I wouldn't have a job. But it just makes me feel good, like venting that out. If something needs to be sent, I'll often say, can you please Stacy this? Because it might be a little bit ugh. But yeah, my suggestion would be please don't send anything, because it will be used against you. So well done. We've hit the hour. I'll try and speed up a little bit. But yeah, so we've spoken about a few different things today. We've spoken about legal fees and how, through a program like mine, through Empowered Separation, we can make sure you're choosing the right legal team and keeping costs down and making you informed. And obviously feeling supported from a mental health side. We don't want you to feel defeated. I want you to be empowered. It kind of irks me when I hear people say like a victim, or like, well, kind of like, I want you to be empowered. I don't necessarily want you to feel like a victim. If that's what you feel, that's completely fine. I want you to come out stronger at the end, not weaker. It is not a personal failure that you're going through a separation. We've discussed strategies to help you shift that mindset, and you had your self-worth, so you've defined your worth. Please make sure that you remember that. Choosing the right support will make all the difference. So please have a think about your support person. Reducing overwhelm, so breaking those tasks down into manageable steps that suit you. And just give yourself grace if it feels too much. Like if it's heavy, just go, yep, heavy, like I need a break. Like don't push yourself, because it's just not going to end well. And honestly, it's just scratching the surface of everything. But I really do hope that you've gotten some information out of it today. And, well done for even taking this first step. And it doesn't matter where you're at with your journey. You've taken a first step today, so please be proud of that. So just have a moment to work out where you are. You might be feeling a couple of different things. You might be relieved. Yay, a lawyer that's just not in it for the money. A separation is more than just about legal paperwork, and a lawyer who understands, or a lawyer and a team, because my team are the same, it's not just me, that know that the legal and the emotional support are just as important to navigate the journey. You're probably also maybe feeling overwhelmed. You got to start, you're not quite sure, know where to begin, and you're not quite sure whether you're making the right decisions. And you probably want to obviously reduce costs as much as possible, and, keep the energy positive, and try not to emotionally drain yourself as well. And again, it's exactly why I created Empowered Separation, because having those clients suicide, having those clients feeling like they're a failure, it's not something I like to see. And honestly, when you are forced to make critical life decisions, when you are at your most vulnerable, when you are emotional, when you're overwhelmed, when you haven't got the right guidance, when you're told to sign this and you don't want to sign this, it's going to be yuck. Like it's just not going to end well. So you can try to navigate it alone, and spending, hourly rate on legal fees to try and navigate this yourself. My hourly rate alone is $550. That's probably on the cheaper side, to be completely honest. I've seen it much like $1,000, and that's not even a barrister, that's for a lawyer. You can go the traditional law route, where you might get the legal side done, but your emotional side is not going to be covered. Maybe if you feel you don't need the emotional side, hats off to you. That might work out for you. And then obviously you have that empowered separation pathway, where we have oodles of modules and lessons that have clear guidance without using the legal jargon. You have all that emotional support as well. You have a community who knows exactly what you're going through. You got a proven framework for making confident decisions. Move at your pace, not your lawyer's pace. Some people have said, I'm considering looking at you as a divorce or a separation coach. Cool, happy for that. No, no dramas. That's essentially what it is. Because I know just going through this is really hard, and I really don't want you to do it alone. And yeah, we are adding to empowered separation all the time, especially now when Nina goes off to have a baby. So absolutely flogging her with new lessons and modules, and there's always going to be something to add. Unfortunately, I don't think family law is just something that's going to end. And I'd love you to be a part of it if you feel it's right for you. I get asked about costs, so I quickly popped this one in just to kind of give you a comparison, I suppose. So I mentioned before that my hourly rate's $5.50 alone. My team is under me, being the owner. I've kind of got the highest legal rate in my business. It's a pretty standard rate, but as I've said, I've seen it as high as $1,000, and that's, barristers are more than that. So, and it depends on which area you're in. If you're in Sydney, Brisbane, it's going to be on the higher end. When I had a look at an estimated cost of a separation, it came up 13 grand. I don't know whether I believe that. If it's 13 grand, that is a super simple, non-complicated, no fuss, no bitching settlement. And if you get that, awesome. I would say it is probably more around that 20 grand and above. And I would say even that is with minimal conflict as well. It gets really, really yucky quick. A lot of lawyers, us included, will ask for money to be put in trust. We ask for either 500 to 1,000, depending on what we're doing, and you'll have to keep putting money in trust. Most firms I know want 5K, and we obviously have our own expenses as well, so we need to make sure that we survive as businesses. You have legal aid options out there. We are not on the legal aid panel, so you probably won't be putting funds in trust for that. But your first, say, 4 meetings with a lawyer, you are probably looking at around 3K, and you don't get very far. They're just going through the process, they're getting your instructions, they're telling you, what you need to collate. Like you wouldn't even have an offer on the table here. There'd be no balance sheet, there'd be no anything. So it adds up really, really quickly. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I really do feel that empowered separation, you are going to be paying less in legal fees because I literally have like as much as I possibly can there. The priority of things are changing because I know people are at different stages. So it's like, hey, can we have this lesson? I'm like, yep, cool. So like lessons are kind of getting shot out everywhere based on what people's needs. It might take longer to reach a resolution. If you don't have that education behind you, you will probably feel really overwhelmed without that roadmap or that emotional support. So if there is a way I can save you money, reduce your stress, and get through it with more clarity, I would love that for you. I don't want you feeling like that victim. I really want you to be strong. You're going to have, non-strong moments, and that's okay. Hopefully there are more strong, but I really want you to be in control, and I just want you to have the right tools in your belt. And I'm just going to finish off with a quick story, but we had a client a few years ago come to us. She'd moved on to a new relationship. There was a massive gap in between separating and doing the property settlement, but they were still married. So there are time frames, but they were still within that time frame. It was very evident that she had anger and resentment issues towards her ex, but she wanted the matter to be over at the same time. So it'd been a long time coming. And she was just stuck. She was fighting over things that to us were so small, but to her, they were just everything. And the two things we got stuck on was a bucket, like an ordinary $1 bucket, and a fairy floss machine. Yep, those were the two things. And she just would not budge. And had she not even made us bring them up with the other side, it wouldn't have even been an issue because he didn't even remember what they were. But because she brought them up, he made them out to be like a massive deal. So obviously her legal fees were more because we're fighting over a bucket and a fairy floss machine. And he was obviously, no, you're not getting them. I want them. Obviously, he'd forgotten about them. He didn't give a shit about them. He was just trying to have like that last stab at her. And that was very obvious. He obviously knew how to push her buttons and he was going to do it one last time. And we sat down with her and we had to work through it. And we acknowledged that, hey, these things obviously mean so much to you. There is a story behind this. Let's help you work through it. And then she's like, you know what? I don't need him. I'm holding on to hurt him. He's not hurting. It's hurting me. I was stuck in a battle that I didn't want. And I'm like, you know what? He can have him. I don't want him. And when you could see her make that decision, the relief on her face was just like, just the relief. You could see it coming off her shoulders. Like it was just absolutely amazing. And then her matter was all resolved. She sent us like this massive ass bunch of flowers for like this really, really lovely note. And for her and for us, it was just knowing that her matter was now finally settled to something that she was happy with, and she could go on with her new partner feeling happy, relieved, and really, really empowered. And that is what we want. So this is the program. As I said, I never wanted to be that lawyer who milks clients for money. The reason I became a lawyer is a different story. I won't tell you the reason why I became a lawyer. But I just knew I was never going to work, be that type of lawyer. And I'd worked for international and national law firms before, and it just didn't like me. Oh, sorry, I didn't like it. And I honestly want more money for you and your kids than in my bank account. And I want you to finalize your separation as quickly and as amicably as possible with the least mental load, the least amount in legal fees, and just something that you were honestly happy with. And that's why I created this program. I don't want you relying on those mums and bubs, and I don't want you to get that wrong advice, especially from somebody who shouldn't be giving it. I don't want you to feel lost and overwhelmed. I don't want you staying in relationships that you don't want to stay in. It's honestly designed to save you time, money, and stress. It helps you step through at your own pace without being rushed. It prepares you so that when you do engage a lawyer, and whether that's us or somebody else, it's whoever you are comfortable with, you are spending less time with them, because by the time you go to them, you know what the process is, and they're going to be asking you for all this stuff, and you can go, here, like I have this all here. So you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else. It empowers you to understand that process so you don't get taken for a ride. Work out whether you want that traditional law, whether that holistic approach. We've discussed that already. And collaborative law is hitting Australia. It's really slow, but it's getting there. It's actually coming out of America, of all places, the most litigious country ever. So it is getting out there, but it's going to take some time, I think, unfortunately. But again, that's exactly why I've done what I did, because I know that you deserve a process that's empowering and it's not exhausting. So there's heaps included. We have a live monthly group call. We had it yesterday, I think. For the first time in the year, you've got that private community. Always trying to find people who are aligned with our values to come and speak and give extra resources. Got tools and resources in there. There will easily be more than 15 to 20 hours of video content. Now we've added a whole pile the past few weeks. You have unlimited access. We've had people reach out to us, say, hey, just had my dad died and a friend just suicide. Like, can I pause it? It's there. We just said, you get back to that when you can. Like, you do not, that should be the last thing you're thinking of. So that is completely fine. We do have a free 15-minute clarity call with, it'll probably likely be with my team more than myself at the moment. Absolutely inundated, helping people through this, which I absolutely love. But my team are more than qualified to do that as well. So you've got that in there. There's piles of discounts. There's everything that I can possibly think of. The webinar price is $497. Usually it's just under $1,000, so it's about half the price. It's easily over 6K in value. It will be way more than that now. You're going to get a clear roadmap on your separation. I'm going to give you the strategies to handle your emotions and to reduce overwhelm. You're going to have that legal and financial knowledge to protect you and in the future. So if you're going to a new relationship, I'm going to be giving you tips for that as well, because that's often not taken into account. So you don't end up in this situation again. Tools to help you communicate effectively, support. Like, honestly, we're adding so much stuff. And as I said, we have a whole list of things that we're adding. Nana's about to have a baby, so I'm absolutely hammering her with everything that I can think of. But because people who have joined are at different stages, they'll be like, look, I need this. Cool. That is in the pipeline. I will make sure I bring that up. So then you've got that there. So you're going to see it's a little bit scattered, but it's only because I've prioritized it, I suppose, how I think you should be getting it. But I've had to amend that when people have come through. So, hey, I need this section. Cool. I'll we'll load that up in the next week or so. So I'm honestly trying to fit as much as I possibly can in there. That was just a testimonial from Cole saying how good we are. Another one saying how good we are. That's Ali. She's my lawyer who's been with me 5 years this year. So she was super happy with her. Yep, so you honestly can have an empowered separation. As I said, you probably didn't even know that that was a thing. It is 100% a thing. It should be a normal thing, but unfortunately, it's just not. What else? I don't think I really need to cap on that. I'm going to go on this one just because I know we've hit nearly an hour 20. In that correspondence, we say submit your questions. I honestly wasn't expecting to get smashed with so many questions at each webinar I do, and I love it. That is why I ask, but it's physically impossible to try and answer all of them. I would be on here forever, and I don't want to make this any longer than what it is. If you have submitted a question to me, always try and respond and say, hey, I've got it. If I don't answer it here, I'm going to answer it in a weekly email. I'm going to do it on a podcast, on a video, on a social media, whatever it is. So I assure you that any question you send me, I'm either going to bring up here because a lot of the questions are really similar, or I will raise social media podcast or something. So I promise you that I'm not going to forget something. Right. So one of the questions that we got a few times the past couple of weeks or months is people are saying they really need to enroll, they need it, but they don't want their spouse to know, they don't want it coming up on the credit card. I think if you put it on your credit card, I think it should come up Stacy M. Peterborough Limited. I don't think it should come up divorce, family law, lawyer, anything like that. I'm going to put a caveat on that and say I can't guarantee that, but I think that's how it comes up. We also have a number of payment options. So when you go through to that page, we have Apple Pay, Google Pay, Klarna, and Afterpay. And obviously there's a credit card as well. You do have the option of starting a separate bank account. So it's not hiding anything because you're going to have to disclose that when you go through the separation. So you might want to open a bank account in your name, and you might want to get cash out at the cash register and pop that into that account, or you might have a declutter of things and you sell stuff over Facebook, marketplace, and you pop your money in there. That's another suggestion that you might want as well. If I take the course, do I still need a lawyer? Look, you can definitely do your own orders through the court. I wouldn't recommend it because I would want to make sure that you are getting the most that you should be, and I don't want you ripping yourself off. So if you and your ex are on good terms, awesome. Try and keep it that way. If you can work out a draft settlement together, that's going to save so much time and money. You can then go to us or your lawyer and say, hey, this is the gist of what we want. We are cool with it. Assuming it's all okay and agreed to, and, someone's not getting ripped off, the BFA or consent orders can be drafted. So that's just going to save you a whole pile of time. People are using it to consciously uncouple. So they're using it to form their settlement together and their like what each party is going to get. So I thought that was like really, really cool as well. Another one we get asked is how to stay or go. I can't tell you whether to stay or go. There's so many factors in that, but I can tell you that we do cover that in empowered separation as well. International assets, we have them. What do we do with them? They are taken into account. Don't stress about it. Like, it's all good. If you have international assets, don't stress. I have shares overseas that I have. It's all cool. Don't stress. Disclose it and it'll be dealt with. We've had property in where was she? Oh, we've dealt with property in some weird, rough places before, and I honestly can't think of where it was, but yeah, it's doable. Don't stress. Mediators, do they make a difference? If you got the right one, 100%. We have a really good relationship with a lot of mediators. We have a very high success rate at settling at mediation. The only reason I say we don't have 100%, I would say we're 99%. Well, it's because a mediation was deemed successful, but the lawyer on the other side was one of those ones who likes to be difficult, and she said, no, it's not agreed. It was agreed. And then she filed at court. So waste of time. But so otherwise, the right mediator can definitely make the world of difference. Again, I just want to put DV in here. If you're in a DV relationship, your priority, or if you're on this webinar for somebody, and when they're in a DV relationship, safety is the priority. And I actually have a podcast coming out, might be scheduled for next week or the week after, in relation to DV situations as well. So keep an eye out on that. I probably wouldn't be bothered trying to gather docs. If you can get a gist of what your assets are, that would be handy. If you can get your hands on birth certificate and passports, that would be handy. If you can't, do not stress. Like, your priority is your safety. So, and yeah, depending on your location, you have emergency accommodation. There's groceries and essential groceries and essential items. Please do seek intervention of police, and I would be seeking early intervention of a lawyer in that case as well. What am I entitled to? Look, there's so many things I'm taking into account, and we cover that in the program as well. There's spousal, there's contribution, like there's heaps of stuff. People say, oh, it's 50-50. It's not necessarily 50-50. Rarely is it 50-50. So please don't have that in your head either. But yeah, we cover all that as well. And will I end up at court? It depends. It depends on, the type of person you have engaged as a lawyer. It depends on the type of person of your ex and their lawyer. We try and stay out of court. Sometimes you need to go to court. If you're in the court system, it gets very expensive very quickly, and it will probably take years. So, yes, where all possible, try not to end up in court. That's where I'd ideally not like to see you, unless it's absolutely necessary. But in the program, we go through all the different options in relation to a settlement as well, and things you're probably not aware of because they're only starting to make their way over here. Helps you to prepare your docs. Gives you the confidence, which I think is really important as well. And obviously, we don't want things to escalate. I think the more prepared you are, the more likely you are to avoid court. Again, caveat DV. And yeah, honestly, try and put as much as I possibly can in there. So, guys, that's pretty well it. I'm going to go double check the chat. Thank you very much for jumping on today. Actually, I might hang on. Sorry, I've just lost you all because I've blown the questions up. What do I have? You're welcome, Sandra. You're welcome, Nicola. I'm not quite sure what A is, sorry. Um, is there a guideline on what to expect to pay a lawyer to help us? Yeah, Sandra. So that was, I don't know whether I discussed that. So I did put a slide up in relation to expectation of costs. I'm assuming that question has come before I did that slide. If not, let me know and I can probably discuss that really quickly. That's fine, Deborah. Happy that you need to go. That's all good. Does the money put in trust come off the fallen amount? Yep. So usually we bill monthly, and say we have $500 in trust and invoice is 100. We send you the invoice. Family law should be an itemized bill so you know what you're getting and where your time's going. If it's not, you have the right to request that. We'll go, hey, we have $500 in trust. Your bill is $100. Can we take $100 off that $500? So, yes, so it would definitely come off that final bill. Divorce is actually, so if you are married, you after 12 months of being separated, you can file for divorce, which means you will no longer be married as long as a court signs off on that, and then you're free to marry. I use the word separation because not everybody is married. If there are a lot of de facto relationships out there, so I say divorce. I say separation instead of like divorce, I suppose, and they are two different things. Financial settlement is dealing with all the financial assets. So someone can't come at you in the future saying, hey, we've separated. I want a chunk of that. Give it to me. So there would be very few circumstances where a financial settlement would not be needed. But yeah, the financial settlement is dealing with all the assets, all the liabilities, just dealing with it so no one can come at you in the future. Divorce is actually you are married and then you are divorcing. There are time frames for things as well, so you need to make sure that you are compliant with those time frames. Divorce can usually just be done on your own. If you and your ex agree, you just file the paperwork with the court. It will likely be heard in your absence, unless you tick you want to go. I honestly don't think you need to go if you're both agreeing for that divorce. Paperwork comes through, and then you're divorced. So filing fee is about $1,000. But yeah, from the divorce side, yeah, I would probably, that part you could probably do yourself without lawyers. Oh, sorry, trees. I've been frozen for the past half hour. God, I'm hoping that was nobody else. I honestly have no idea. I've signed up for like the best internet, and today is not stormy for once. It's beautiful outside. Let's hope the replay doesn't have the freeze trees. But yeah, I do apologize that. Um, Oh, this is delay. Okay, I'm really, really sorry. I'll see if I can quickly go back. Or you'll have the replay, Sandra, so you better have a look at that where I kind of break down the costs. Are the oh, sorry, I just lost that question. Are legal fees expended factored into settlement because I'm spending more than I should be because of games? Sometimes you can get a cost order. Not very overly successful. And fortunately, yeah, and you do have people that will play games. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a waste of energy, time, money. I just don't agree at all. If you are not at court, Therese, and I'm assuming you obviously have a lawyer, have a chat as to whether you need to bring that in front of the court. And that just means that if they're being pain in the asses in relation to disclosure or something, if you file at court, that court's going to make sure that that thing is done by that next date. Otherwise, the judge is going to yell at them. So just have a chat to your lawyer. So you can definitely threaten that you're going to do a cost order, but it doesn't often get up, unfortunately, or you might better take that in your property settlement, perhaps. So as in, you've just wasted our time. You wouldn't be using this wording because I think it would make them happy, but you're wasting our time. I want an extra 20 grand because you were just stuffing around, for example. So have a chat to your lawyer about whether maybe that's something that you can do. Inheritance is a whole other kettle of fish. Keeping it out of the asset pool. Definitely don't have time to do that one today, unfortunately. There are a whole pile of estate planning options that you can do. Inheritance does come into it. So, if there was a large inheritance, but, that should be taken into consideration. You would still have to disclose it, because if you don't disclose it, you will be in big, big trouble. Yeah, so with mediation, usually they're 4-day mediations, which can be really, really, really heavy. I don't often suggest mediation for a full day. A half a day is usually enough. But if you are in such a role as to getting a resolution, I wouldn't be saying, hey, right, let's pack up shop and start again. Like in a week's time, we can get back in. So, but yeah, usually something is drawn up, should be drawn up by a mediator. And then someone will either draft the orders or draft BFA, whatever it is. Yeah, so that should happen. A good mediator will send through that document, like with like a heads of agreement or something. Yep, post mediation, Therese. Thank you, Sandra. Again, sorry, stuff was freezing. I really don't know. That hasn't happened before. So if you are going through separation now and you have a lawyer and you've had an inheritance, that would have to be a disclosure. If you're expecting an inheritance, so somebody's on their deathbed and you're waiting to get a chunk of money, I'd probably be raising that with your lawyer as well, because non-disclosure is required by law and you can get in big, big, big trouble if you don't. From an estate planning point of view, there are definitely things that you can do to minimize, I suppose, issues in the future with like tax or separation. Like there's bloodlines, there's a whole pile of things. So if you're wanting to perhaps like do an estate planning thing, I could probably find somebody for that. We do it. If that's like next level, we would be recommending somebody else for you. But yeah, there's definitely options in relation to. And in the program, we go through how to avoid happening in the future. So obviously we want you to go into a relationship again. We don't want you to be scarred, but in the program we go through, hey, now you've gone through all of this. This is what we recommend you do before you go into your next relationship, which most people won't tell you about either. If I can avoid you sitting in front of me again through another relationship, or you're coming in front of me because we know exactly what we're doing, then that's okay. But yeah, I don't want to have to see people go through this again. Future inheritance, probably not, because it doesn't necessarily mean that money is going to be around in the future. So again, you can't take legal advice from this. Future inheritance, probably not. Like if you're expecting to get $1 million and that person dies in 10 years and that $1 million isn't there, that money's not there. So inheritances are usually not guaranteed. So I would probably say, unless you mean future as in, again, deathbed, somebody about to die, somebody about to get a lot of money, maybe. But no, I think that's probably too far, unfortunately, Patrick. Again, it kind of comes down to your mediator. It's not too very often we would get something not the next day in relation to what was agreed. Some mediators don't send anything at all, which is like super annoying. It depends on how on the ball your lawyers are and the other lawyer is as well. I know when we come off the bat of a mediation, and if that mediation went well and stuff's agreed, we are straight onto that puppy. We don't want to wait a week. Then all of a sudden somebody go, oh, I forgot what was discussed or that wasn't agreed or whatever. We are straight onto that. So I would be getting, I don't know what time frame you're talking about, Therese, but I would be getting onto your lawyer going, right, mediation was whatever date, let's get onto this shit. So yeah, we just get onto that. That's the whole point of mediation. We don't want any delays with getting orders drafted from that. Yeah. So as I said, like inheritance, if you already got it, will be disclosed. Future inheritance, I'm an only child. I don't even speak to my parents either. That's another whole kettle of fish. But yeah, to me, it's always don't expect anything. Like when we get family vision claims and someone's pissed because someone's got more money than somebody else, I'm like, look, don't expect for you to get anybody like any money. Like if that person wants to go and live their life and be a grey nomad and spend all that money on travel, then you go do you boo. Like go do that, go live your life. I really don't think anybody should be expecting anything under like a will. If it's zero, it's zero. It's not, it's not. Obviously, there are times where a provision claim is needed. There's a lot of fraud out there, or I'll just put me as a beneficiary and I'll make sure that Tommy and John get their inheritance. Like stuff like that, unfortunately, happens. But yeah, in relation to like future inheritance and stuff, that money's just not guaranteed unless it's under locked up with like some really high duty trust deed or something like that. It's just too, I know if that came to me, I'd be like, no, like I wouldn't be relying on that. Again, depends on the circumstances, but if yeah, I probably wouldn't be arguing that one. But yeah, so thanks guys for jumping in today. I know it was super heavy. That was an hour and a half, so that wasn't too bad. I said you will be sent the replay this afternoon sometime once we get all that fixed up. But hopefully I have helped. And I really do hope that, whether you guys come through my program or not, I just really hope I've at least provided you with some information that you can use in your separation. Sorry, I just saw another chat come up. Um, yeah, I said when the games and the manipulation starts, like I just, oh, just irks me. Ugh, I don't like it. I just don't. Oh, just does not sit with my values at all. I don't see the point. So, thank you again. I hope you have a lovely day. Hopefully, I'm not going to go back out to my kitchen and find maggots on my floor again. But yeah, any questions, anything at all, please, guys, reach out. But yeah, the replay will go out this afternoon sometime. So thank you very much and enjoy your day. See you guys.